Now the story of a single parent who lacked boundaries and the fragile sense of self that gave them no choice but to keep their family together. It's the Good Michael. On a surface level viewing, Michael Bluth and Marta Estrella from the TV show Arrested Development are really they're on the same wavelength, you know? They immediately bonded. He was a real estate agent. She was a Spanish soap opera star. What more can I say? This was especially notable given that she was the first woman since Michael's wife died, which was about a year before, that Michael felt like he could maybe be with. And he realizes this when she expresses just how much she loves family. And oh my God, Michael feels the same way.
What comes before anything? What have we always said is the most important thing?
Breakfast.
Family.
Another fun fact, he also likes music and taking long walks on the beach. But no, seriously, for these two, family is a big thing. That's something they talk about it so much.
Family.
And it looks like they have what are essentially the same thoughts about it. And now I introduce to you the Michael principles and the Marta principles. So, for Michael, his sort of, these are their thoughts and how they go about the world in regards to family. For Michael, it's family is the most important thing, and family sticks together. For Marta, it's family and commitment are the only things that matter. Career is one thing, but family is forever, and honor family. But as we learn more about these two, it becomes more obvious that they might seem to be on the same wavelength, but Michael's principles aren't as authentic and wholehearted as he'd like people to believe they are. And on the other hand, Marta's principles are authentic, and it's that lack of authenticity that prevents Michael from being able to form healthy relationships. Also, just a quick establishment of thoughts, so you know what I'm referring to later when I mention it. We don't know what happened to Marta's husband, Amable and Cortesio's father or boyfriend. I don't know if they were married. We don't know anything. But my assessment is that he didn't die because I think Marta would have mentioned him out of a respect thing as if he had died. And Marta isn't just the type to cut people off, so I don't think it was a good relationship, whether she had to cut him off or whether he just abandoned them. She's not one to take that lightly, so I'm assuming it was some flavor of entirely awful, just an abusive situation. Anyway, that's all. On to the rest of it. The similarities really did trip me up at first when I was analyzing them, because really it's does this not, sure she has some extra stuff, but does that not go without saying? No, it does not. So what helped me is okay, they both care about family. They both care about commitment. But here, only Marta cares about honor. And Michael cares about career, and Marta does not. These two elements are what Marta and Michael believe that family quality of life is dependent on. So for Marta, if honor goes up, family quality of life goes up. If it goes down, family quality of life goes down. Same with Michael. Michael believes that career is what family quality of life is dependent on. And that's because he believes his family is basically incapable of growth. So his time would be better spent just keeping them financially afloat than trying to get them to be actual respectable adults. So already he's not coming from interactions from a place respect, but trouble really starts brewing when someone wants something other than money. In the episode Top Banana, Job complains to Lucille, his mom, that he feels like he's not being included in the company. And then later Lucille calls Michael and she's like, hey, go give your brother a job. He's annoying me. And so Michael gives him a job to do, mailing a letter. And then Job throws that letter into the ocean from whence it came in an act of rebellion. He then later complains to Michael that it's not that he actually wants to work in the company. He doesn't want to work for the business, be in charge. He just wishes that someone would ask him. Just consider him as an option. But it's not even worth that. Career is synonymous with family for the Blues, and because of this, there's no real way for Job to earn respect. The cards were stacked against him, pun intended. His dad, didn't even let him, work at the banana stand as a kid. So, it's and the rest of the siblings and nibblings don't have any way to, they aren't included in the business either, whether that be by choice or not. So that creates, this very condescending relationship between, him and the rest of his family. And his family, is they're very eclectic. They have unconventional lifestyles, at least by Michael's definition of what that would mean. So whether that be part-time stripper, other part-time magician, or attempting to get into Juilliard's music program for woodblock, and if he wants to help his family so much, he should stop excluding them, and acknowledge that there might be something more behind their unhappiness, but beyond just them, not having, a job or something. It's just, stoking the fire, man. It's not helping. Now, Marta has a different and pretty innovative strategy, helping and supporting her family in a way that, lifts them up, not holds them back. What can I say? She was ahead of her time. There's nothing she finds, worse than eye roll when it comes to this kind of stuff. Want to see a magic trick in the park? She's up for it. Magic wand lift in the bed? Hardly phased. Listening to Job's pitchy cover CD?
2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12.
Is that Joe?
He likes to make love to this.
For God's sake, she calls Job's magic a career. Job's interests are important to her simply because they're important to him, and she wants him to be happy. Even if she doesn't share his interests, it's not about that. It's not just passive support either. When she gets the opportunity to help Job get back into the Magicians Alliance, who barred him from most venues, and she gets to surprise him on stage and stuff like that. How you surprise someone. There's a bird outside. When she gets the opportunity to help Job get back into the Magicians Alliance by supporting him on stage because they barred him from most venues, she's immediately on board. She's yes, I want to help him. That would be awesome. Marta also understands that people can change and doesn't immediately dismiss others for being imperfect people. Job is an imperfect person. Understatement of the century. He also has very, very strong emotions. Something triggers an emotion, and it can range from magical glitter bomb explosion, the world is beautiful, to, oh, a glitter bomb exploded, and oh god, there's glitter in my mouth and eyes and all over, and I'm choking and dying and stuff. So it's big. This explosion of feelings often contributes to why Job and Marta's on and off relationship isn't just just on. It just keeps moving around. For instance, Job showed Marta and her kids this one illusion where he sticks a needle in his neck, and it's ooh, he's still alive even though he's bleeding. But Amable and Cortezio, who are probably 5 and 3 or something, they don't find the bloody display particularly pleasant, and they run away screaming. And Marta is understandably and justifiably upset with Job for showing them that. But still, a few days later, she goes looking for him because she wants to apologize for hurting his feelings. He thought I was belittling his career, but I never would do that, and I wanted to apologize. Marta understands that magic is a very sensitive and personal subject for Job, and he's this very emotional person who often gets caught up in his feelings, whereas Michael tends to roll his eyes and just awkwardly play along when Job is upset, just to get him to shut up or whatever. Marta takes his feelings seriously. Job did do something wrong, but Marta is aware that continuing to pull at that tear in the fabric isn't going to mend that hole. I gotta meet in the middle sometimes. Now, I understand why Michael wouldn't want to be Job's assistant in a magic show, because he's been witness and a victim to a lifetime of magic shows that are seemingly cursed by Murphy's Law. And I also understand that he has a lot on his plate, with the company and his dad being in jail, whatever else comes his way. But it's really not that hard to not treat watching Job perform magic it's cruel and unusual punishment for the crime of being related to him. And maybe he'd have the And maybe he'd have the time and energy to do it if he wasn't so focused on saving this dying, fraudulent company. Another big indicator of Michael's contrasting and authenticity is that Marta's principles are never just like a prop to prove how like exceptionally moral she is. For instance, in the episode Marta Complex, Marta realizes that Michael was who she, really loved, but eventually decided that it would be disrespectful to Job to date him. Michael, assures her, he is not worth the respect, man. Not at all. And she's like, no, that would hurt his feelings. And he's like, no, trust me, really, we can do this. It's fine. She's like, no, it would hurt his feelings. And so she's very insistent about this. And she is right that it would hurt Job because, they do end up, getting together in the next episode. They do decide to date. And Job beats up Michael for it. And then she breaks it off with the both of them. She doesn't ignore her principles in moments where, doing so would benefit her. She sticks to them because
We live by a code, you and I, to honor family.
And even if, she breaks up with Job and he's no longer a part of the family, he's still a part of Michael's family. And she can never, with, a good conscience, harm that pure brotherly bond. Michael's also not initially on board with Marta trying to date him. But that's mainly because he didn't know that, he was who she was interested in. When Job told Michael he believed Marta was cheating on him, neither of them knowing, the truth of the situation, Michael is disappointed. But again, not for really, any upstanding moral values he has.
Marta's cheating on me.
What?
Yeah, can you believe that?
That's crazy, Job. She's not a cheater. If she were to cheat, I'd like to think that she'd cheat. You're the cheater. Let me tell you something, Job. We're going to track this Hermano down, okay? And we're going to nail him. Because if anyone's going to go out with that girl, it's going to be one of us.
Right. Me.
And I'm okay with that.
He also later, lectures Marta about it and, how he's disappointed in her and didn't think she was the type to sneak around and cheat like that. She wasn't cheating and she didn't sneak around. But as soon as Michael finds out she wasn't cheating, but had bought him a gift and was planning on confessing her feelings to him, he's suddenly okay with it. He'd just been acting all, high and mighty about the whole thing, talking about how he thought they had the same values. He thought they were on the same wavelength, man. And cheating is something he's criticized Job for doing in this relationship and also, every other relationship, because it's just, he does it all the time. But he doesn't seem to really, full-heartedly believe that. Because, it's he's an exception, to a level he does, but he's an exception to the rule, he's a good person, TM. So if he does it, that would obviously be different than, Job cheating or Marta cheating, but it's not on him, it's with someone else. Because, him being, in the equation, then it's, it cancels out because he's, awesome and cool and good and stuff. Capital G, capital P, good person who cares about family and morals, and other guys aren't that. Because they're not him. Another instance of him putting aside his principles for his own benefit is in the episode Queen for a Day. The company's stock is unfrozen, and Michael sends out a letter to everyone in the family being like, hey, the stock is unfrozen, but don't sell because we'll probably lose the company if you all sell. Unfortunately, it seems that everyone in the family just stopped reading at the word unfrozen and immediately sold or was planning on selling their stock to get a variety of exorbitant products and services. Michael, of course, gives one of his classic lectures. Well, I hope you're all proud of yourselves. Your careless, selfish spending sprees may have cost us the Bluth Company. But Michael is not innocent in this either. He wanted to get a car that didn't have a bunch of stairs on the back, which I get it. That's fine. I think he deserves that. But he really did not need to, buy a Corvette, I think. Just maybe. Because of all the spending, they do in fact end up 2,000 shares short from being the majority stockholders. But oh my god, Michael could save the day and return the Corvette to save the company, save the family, which is his thing. Remember, that's his whole thing. But instead he chooses to just convince his younger brother Buster to break up with his new girlfriend someone who didn't change his diapers or know him since he was a baby and tell him to get back the woman who did change his diapers and did know him as a baby, because like they think that they're like, oh, I think that person is like the person who like bought up all the like shares and stuff like that, and maybe they can like manipulate her and stuff. Buster was like finally finding some sense of independence, and like Michael like ruined the much more appropriate relationship that he literally encouraged Buster to pursue in the first place, just because he didn't want to return his new fancy car. He does eventually tell Buster to like ignore his advice, go get back with Starla, but it's only because he feels bad, because it turns out Buster actually didn't sell any stock. He read the whole letter and he didn't want to hurt the family, so he didn't sell. Like, this is a situation where not only is like a family member's like well-being on the line, but the company is on the line. Not even just like one of his family members, all of them, the whole family. And like saving this company is what Michael believes will help the family. But no, even then, he's willing to look the other way for selfish reasons, selfishness that he looked down on his family for and gave like a little lecture about like, oh, you've made a poor decision. He can't even stick to like his own flawed principles, as opposed to Marta, who'll follow like the Marta principles to the end of the earth. It's not like I think that like Michael doesn't care about his family, and I do think he genuinely believes that like keeping the company alive is like the best thing for the family in the long term. But unfortunately, putting career before his family just like ends up putting it in the exact opposite direction that Michael would want it to go, and that keeps him stuck in these unhealthy relationships. And I can't fully blame him for that. He's been like programmed by George and Lucille to be their little family robot who can't stray too far from the family, because then the signal gets weak and he starts to malfunction and he's drawn back home, kind of like a map car. But regardless, the Marta principles is like below the Michael principles, is like out of the water. And it's that element of honor that counteracts the animosity that the Michael principles inflame. And, you know, if Michael just like followed Marta's lead, you know, was the good version of himself, then maybe... Wait a second, hold on. Carry the 40 to rise over... Okay, that's... And for the Martas, it's... Gasp! I'm sure you're all aware of the, what, you know, like the classic story structure diagram, that thing, you know? When people think of life as a movie, this is typically what they're thinking about. You know, like there's a conflict and there's a subsequent resolution. But real life isn't a movie. No. And, like, Arrested Development, for as wacky as it is, actually does, like, a pretty realistic impression of how real life can be. So let's discuss what, like, you know, happens in the average day of Michael Bluth. So, you know, like, things are normal, but then it's like, oh my god, Michael, I burned off the eyebrows of the gay mafia leader, and now we have to put on the best talent show this town's ever seen, and Michael's like, oh, I am done with this family, I'm not gonna help you, but then he, like, learns to help them. And here is where there typically be, like, the resolution and things move forward, changed. But what actually happens is it just, like, circles back around to the front, and this period of normalcy, it resembles the resolution. But it's actually not, they're just right back at the start again. Now, obviously, there's, like, the whole element of, like, Michael having, like, a terrible, terrible family that plays into this, that keeps him in this cycle. But, like, let's look at the full big picture. We see only a fraction of these people's lives. Ignoring the parents for the sake of, like, sure, they could change, but Michael definitely doesn't owe them that patience. His siblings weren't born that way. They weren't born like that. The way we see them in the series, that's not how human beings work. They dealt with trauma and abuse and had terrible, terrible parents, and terrible, terrible influences, and didn't get help for their issues, and also they're rich. Now, I want to be clear. I am not blaming Michael for how his siblings turned out. That's not what I'm doing at all. And I don't think he needs to help his family. I would have zero qualms if he left them and came back. Negative qualms. I'd be supportive of that. But if his life goal was to support his family and help them, this isn't getting anyone anywhere. This isn't doing anything. And this is where Marta comes in. So here's the average day of like Marta for an example. So it could be like, things are pretty mellow, but then like one of Job's birds accidentally pecks at Amable's head, and now he's crying, and Marta's like, I'm angry with you, and they're both annoyed with each other. But then eventually like Marta goes and apologizes. And again, what I was thinking when I originally like was sort of thinking, when I thought of Marta, I thought it would be like, boom, again. It goes off like that. But that is not the case. Just like Michael, things go right back to the start, and that period of normalcy simulates that resolution. Marta isn't wrong when she says you should respect family. If Michael like valued honor over career, there's a decent chance he'd have like a better relationship with his siblings, probably. But if Marta's authenticity isn't what's stopping the cycle, then like what's missing? What is wrong with like honoring family and committing to family and believing that family is the most important thing? Well, let's look back at these principles. Let's look at them again. So, they're like pretty similar, right? They're so similar. But are they the same? No. You should know that right now. But you know what is similar about them? It comes down to the fine print. How exactly do they follow these rules? The world is not black and white. Most people don't take their golden rules as gospel, no question asked. Marta and Michael are not most people. Actually, I have Mitch Hurwitz here to elaborate upon that. Baby, I'm Mitch Hurwitz, and I'm here to tell you that Marta and Michael are autistic, as well as most other characters. Anyway, I gotta go write incest jokes. That's wild. I can't believe Mitch Hurwitz just came in here and confirmed that. When principles become rigid, you end up viewing the world in incredibly skewed ways. Authenticity won't do anything about that. Either way, for both of them, their deeply internalized black and white thinking just keeps trapping them in toxic relationships and hindering their chances of forming positive ones, all in the name of being good people. Capital G, capital P. Michael and Marta's understanding of family is very naive. To the two of them, family and commitment to that family are the most important things in life. And with them being single parents who've experienced traumatic losses when it comes to romance, they have an extra level of pressure to get things right. They're right in understanding how important family is, but they lack the objectivity to see the impact that the poor behaviors of the family they choose to keep around. Look at the family they choose to commit themselves to.
It's a roofie. Shut up.
Sometimes a diet is the best defense.
So I may have committed some light treason.
Rather than choosing who they do or do not have in their life, based on the people themselves, they just judge in the broadest of strokes and just wave problematic behavior solely on the basis of the person holding the title of family. The blatant disregard for everything they each stand for in their minds is outweighed by the benefits of having family, period, even though that's far from the truth. It's this is not good. And this can largely be credited to their conflation of one's humanity and being deserving of forgiveness. While Michael is much more cynical, they both will have moments of empathy where they realize it's not fair of them to act disrespectfully towards others and decide to do the right thing. In the episode My Mother, the Car, Michael and Lucille get into a car accident, and with the bump Michael got affecting his short-term memory, Lucille convinces him that he was the one driving and he crashed the car since he was trying to give his brother Job a scare. Job is or who they thought was Job was riding on a Segway in front of them, and she tried to run him over. She's great. She's a great mom. She's awesome. But yeah, she convinced Michael that he was the one who had done that. When Michael eventually finds out that this wasn't the case, he's understandably angry with her. And after a moment, Lucille's oh, you know what, you're right. I'm right. I'm a horrible mother. And seeing, their mother be so regretful of how she's acted, actually acknowledging what she's done, Michael, Job, and Lindsay, you just rush up to her and console her. Now, I used this next example before, but give me a break, okay? Like, Marta was only in 7 episodes. There's only so much I can pull from. In storming the castle, when Job does the trick with, like, the needle in the neck and the blood and stuff, like, Marta gets mad at Job and for, like, scaring her kids, but, like, realizing her frustration with him for this, like, hurt his feelings, puts that aside and tries to make it up with him. It is good to be considerate and willing to compromise and not hold a grudge. And, it's important because people will do things that frustrated you. And in order to have a healthy relationship with people, you can't just hold on to all of that. But in these cases, neither of them are deserving of forgiveness. With Lucille, needless to say, what she did was awful. And there are a bazillion more examples of her doing things equally and far more worse than that. And with Job, if this was all there was to it, I could see, like, you know what? Like, I think forgiveness would be fair game. But this is not all there is to it. Job has, like, regularly shown how little he cares for her and her children. And this is just, like, yet another example of him having no regard for her kids at all in the slightest. And making it about himself. And ending in Marta feeling like she has to apologize to him. Michael was right when he said, that is not a family. Marta was right when she said she felt like Job didn't understand family or commitment, but they ignore these gut feelings in the name of doing the right thing and end up putting not only themselves, but their own kids in worse environments than they would be otherwise. Their self-worth is also, like, super dependent on the role that family plays in their lives. They hold themselves responsible for family troubles, viewing it like it's a reflection of their own failure. It's their fault. When, like, oftentimes it's a lot more complicated than that. If it's even their fault at all. Sometimes it's just like, no, it's not your fault. It's not surprising that they think this way, though. Like Michael, he's often told that he's the only one who can keep the family together, and often echoes this sentiment. Although he doesn't always hold himself to a higher standard than his family, when things take a turn for the worse, and he does feel like he is at fault, he can be very hard on himself. One instance of this, where we really see how much it weighs on him, is in the episode Whistler's Mother, where he, like, makes a mistake and just, like, ends up catastrophizing and blaming himself. First investment I made with the company money, and it's a total disaster. I'm gonna ruin this family, Mom. Michael's self-esteem is so dependent on the success of the company, but the thing is, there's, like, almost nothing Michael can do to save this company. Like, even if he made, like, 0 mistakes, something his mom or dad did in the past would come and bite them in the butt anyway. Even if he focused on, like, actually helping his family directly, he alone cannot save his family. It's really hard for him to leave because, he's been told this over and over that he's the only one that can save them. And, it understandably heavily impacts him when he seemingly fails to live up to his one purpose. Marta also does the same, like, constantly putting it on herself for why things aren't working with Job. She, like, supports him to no end, but he just does not reciprocate that love and care, does not, like, rarely expresses gratitude for it. And she believes that this is not because Job is a garbage boyfriend, but it's because of her own shortcomings. In the episode Key Decisions, we find out Marta has been nominated for a Daytime Desi, which is, like, given for excellence in Spanish daytime television. She loses, and she's upset, but not because of, like, anything that has to do with her acting career. She tells Michael, it's not about the award. It's crazy, but I thought it would make Job proud. Whether she won the award or not, like, being nominated at all is a testament to how talented of an actress she is. But she's unable to enjoy this special night because of how consumed she is with, like, what Job thinks about the relationship and how it feels like it isn't working. And it took this moment that should have been about her and made it about her supposed failure as a partner to Job, who could not even bother to show up. They not only hold themselves to their principles out of, like, some moral obligation, but also because they, like, need affirmation and assurance that they are good people. That dependency keeps them in this constant cycle of trying to people-please people who will never be pleased by them. People who only further cement the idea that Michael and Marta are the ones to blame, resulting in their self-esteem just being biffed and baffed just every which way, just uppercut, great right cross, They will never get that assurance, but they won't stop seeking it till they get it, which is which is never. They never get it. Now, on a similar note, who they are as people, like their sense of self, is very dependent on family. And that leads them to undervaluing other parts of their lives that could give them, independence and self-esteem. This can apply to both of them, but it is much more pronounced on Michael's side of things. I already pretty much covered this with Marta, with the, actress thing and her, with the award. But she does have a life outside of Job. It often gets stepped on by him, but she has one nonetheless. Michael, on the other hand, has just absolutely no life outside of his family. He's had no connection to the outside world. He has no friends, no hobbies, no car that isn't shared by most of the family. And so his freedom is decently limited, especially before he got the stair car. Also, his wife is dead. The only thing he has is taking care of his family and working at the family business, and that leads him to being incredibly isolated. He has no identity outside of that. He doesn't know who he is, what he wants. Pretty much any dreams he claims to have are just husks of it. I think this is what a dream looks like. I think this is what I'm supposed to have. His somewhere over the rainbow is Phoenix, Arizona, which he knows absolutely nothing about and has never been to. And when he does finally go, he literally steps outside, realizes it's way too hot there, and just immediately goes back in the airport and flies back to California. You're not fooling anyone, pal. It's not genuine. But yeah, it's basically just it's that one song, Marta wants people to want her, because if they don't want her, then what does that say about her character? And Michael needs his family to need him, because if they don't need him, he is not only not a good person, but he becomes obsolete. Boom. Cycle of seeking approval. They also end up shutting out or being shut out from things that would be positive for them. Michael often finds himself isolated because of his family experience. He struggles to put his family behind him. One example we see of this is when he's working at Google.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
How you doing?
So, is your family joining you?
No. They will not be joining. But maybe just one of their kids can take a swing at me, huh?
Yeah, this class is really geared more to self-defense for the family, not
from the family.
There were clearly some unresolved issues.
Do you have any family on family stuff?
It's not until that part of his history is embraced, rather than him being forced to pretend as if he's had such a normal life, such a normal person, that he begins to feel accepted and at home. He hasn't always been so lucky, though. In season 4, he just, after he fails to find independence in a very unfortunately timed leap into real estate just as the market crashes, he never quite finds his footing. Remember, besides real estate, the family business, what else does he have? Family? Not anymore. They're all off doing their own thing. So he ends up, he's I'm gonna go take classes at the University of Phoenix, except, they're online classes, and he's only taking them online so he can stay in his son's dorm at UC Irvine. So that's a step back. Michael relies on having family around. It was easier before, when he didn't have to face that, and he could just be like, yep, I am independent and so good at being a human being. I don't know what's wrong with you guys. But now being forced to pretty much just be on his own, instead of getting a job or seriously taking on any projects after his real estate business flop, he just dilly-dallies around for a decade, give or take, in a way that he'd tut at his family members for. It'd be what are you doing? Because he's as much of a director as Tobias is an actor. This isn't wholly his fault, of course. His trauma either being something that he's expected to keep secret.
My wife died there. Ovarian cancer, actually.
No, it's not
And,
true. He's a liar. He shouldn't have said that.
Or it's viewed as a spectacle.
My wife died years before any of this.
Oh, gee. I think it's a lot more fun if we see her die.
That is fun.
Nonetheless, he is unable to confront it and grow beyond it. For Marta, she'll often punish herself or others undeservedly based on her principles. When she and Michael finally acknowledge their feelings for each other, she still refuses to date him because it would be disrespectful to Job. throughout her like whole relationship with Job, she's been like constantly willing to give this noxious man, I'm sorry, Job, I love you, but another chance, because, you know, when someone realizes the errors of their ways, like, forgiving and supporting them is always the right thing to do. And she's unwilling to date Michael, someone who has thus far proven to be a good person, because it's always wrong to have feelings for someone else while you're already in a relationship. Once she finally agrees to do the wrong thing the right way and date Michael, it's called off once she sees Michael and Job in like a fight. They're like beating each other up. Now, at most, you could assume it was about the dating thing, which it was. But she doesn't have any context otherwise. Like, this is what she walks up and sees.
While Marta, who'd been told the hearing would last 10 minutes, got tired of waiting.
Hey! Hey!
Marta?
I'm not saying that she should have asked questions or given Michael a second chance or whatever, but it's just like, this is where you draw the line in the sand? Here? This is what makes you break it off forever with Job, but like not all the other garbage he did? And with Michael, up until this point, again, he's given no real indication that they don't hold the same values. As far as she knows, they're on the same page, same wavelength, remember? But she sees him in a fight with his brother, and suddenly all of that means absolutely nothing. Like, for all she knows, Michael was defending himself. And arguably, he was, because, like, you know, Job was the one who started the fight. So, it's like, what does she want him to do? Not fight back? Just get, like, pummeled in the face? Uppercut, great right cross style? Like to her, this is a concrete, unambiguous example of them not caring about family. And she is unwilling and unable to consider any deeper nuance behind it. Like, sure, can Michael be disrespectful to Job in ways that I don't believe are valid? Yes. But does he also not respect Job for reasons that are valid? Absolutely.
I wanted to be a good person, yes, it's true. Be a good person, but better than who? This medley just got super intense, cause life doesn't really make narrative sense.
Marta and Michael both wanted to be capital G, capital P good people, but in that search, they ended up doing and facing more harm than good. You know, Michael was so focused on what it meant to be a good person that he ended up not listening to people, acting selfishly, and, you know, only seeing what he wanted to see. Marta was willing to be, you know, degraded and exploited over and over if it meant there was a chance of helping a person. None of that did any good for anyone. While there is no good Michael, Marta is still very much so a mirror of him. It's the first glimpse of how things don't line up. It's like we're watching the show and Michael's looking in the mirror and we're like, why is he a beautiful Colombian woman? We get to see how much of how Michael presents himself is part of this self-righteous persona, but we also see how ridiculous the idea of a good Michael is. You know, life necessitates flexibility. Unfortunately, that can make it hard for people who function in a way that's, in a words, not typical in a neurological sense. Just at a disadvantage, because just, you know, our minds can sometimes work very much so in those rigid ways. But honestly, I think they could, like, balance each other out. And in my opinion, Marta's the only woman Michael dated post-Tracy who I can see him actually having a good relationship with. You know, Michael could learn to be more forgiving, and Marta could learn to stand up for herself more. You know, I'd like to imagine there's some alternate universe out there where these two did get together and they get to live happy, fulfilling lives as, like, a family. You know, they finally get that family they've always wanted. And they can be naive to the god-awful timeline that would have followed had they never have gotten together. Sunshine from my fingers. We're living in your world now. This time I'm gonna be there. You here with me. Or at least, like, awful for Michael. We don't know what happened to Marta after. But she's probably doing well. Her show's still getting reruns in 2015.